Welcome to Between Two Trains. My name is Theo, and twice a month we bring you the best and brightest entrepreneurs in the North DeKalb area. As always, your host is Van Pappas of Oxygen Financial, and this week we have a special guest host, Mr. David Carter. And now, Between Two Trains.
Okay, welcome again to Between Two Trains. We are once again out of our lofty offices of the Chambly Chamber and out on location for a second episode. This time we're coming to you from 3411 Coworking, which coincidentally is on 3411 Pierce Drive. So we are going to bring on a great guest to talk about the co-working space and being an entrepreneur in that arena. But I'm excited to let you know that we have a fill-in co-host today, a good friend of mine, brilliant lawyer, the ever fabulous and talented David Carter. David, welcome to the show.
Wow, with that kind of build-up, I'm not even sure what to say.
So, David, yeah, you're a lawyer. Tell us a little bit about, let the audience know, what kind of law, is there a particular law that you practice, or?
So I own the Carter Jeffries Law Group. We operate out of Sandy Springs on Roswell Road. We have a specialty area in plaintiff side toxic mold cases and plaintiff side construction defect cases. So if you've got a house and you've done a project or you have a water intrusion resulting from bad flashing or a chimney or something of that nature, we can help you get resolution of your problems with the contractor or the developer. If it's caused a mold problem and you're having sneezing fits and allergies and things related to mold, we can help you resolve that issue as well. You can go to moldfirm.com to see a little more about myself and my partner, Carson Jeffries.
Carson Jeffries, gotcha. So that sounds like a very specialized area. I've never heard. Is there other mold firms out there? Or are you the one and only?
So it's much more prevalent on the West Coast than on the East Coast.
Really? Why is that?
The laws are different out there, and the procedural laws for getting scientific evidence into court is very, very different than Georgia. The Georgia laws almost seem archaic compared to what they do on the West Coast to get evidence admitted. The result is that while a lot of personal injury firms advertise for toxic mold cases, there aren't many that really dedicate themselves to it. There are plenty of construction defect firms out there. They tend to go hand in hand with real estate and other basic litigation, but we feel like we're establishing a niche within the Atlanta submarket.
That's really fascinating, and I know also besides being a fabulous lawyer, you also are the chairman of Chambly's Downtown Development Authority. I'd love during the show to pick your brain. A number of our episodes that has come up as we've talked with these owners in the downtown area and their thoughts, and now we get to hear firsthand from the chairman of the DDA. But before we get into that conversation, I want to bring on the guest of our show, a fabulous entrepreneur that owns 3411 Coworking, Marguarette Diep. Diep. Sorry about that. I'll get it straight one day.
No, that's all right.
So, Marguarette, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, you've been here at 3411 Coworking for about a year. Tell us exactly. So, Coworking, what is that?
Yeah, so Coworking is a shared office space where freelancers, entrepreneurs, small businesses can get memberships and rent office space and get office amenities. But co-working is also unique because there's a community aspect to it where we do social events together. We try to do professional development events to help all the members that are here build their professional knowledge as well. So it's a community of small business and entrepreneurs, basically.
So like yourself?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So you opened it to be the first member.
Exactly. I wanted to be surrounded by other people like myself.
Now, co-working and co-offices seem to be a hot thing. 60+% of the country are self-employed or small entrepreneurs. So there's obviously a lot of demand. And it seems like there are places like yours popping up all over the place. There's obviously some big players like Regis and WeWorks and people like that. Do you find that there is a lot of competition for you, or is there still so many more customers that you're not worried about?
So both. The competition in Atlanta, Atlanta is such a hot market for co-working right now. It's one of the top markets and growing really fast. But I feel like there's also a huge entrepreneurship community here. And, the locations, Atlanta is such a great neighborhood type city where there's many pockets of people living in neighborhoods and cities around the metro area, not just in Atlanta. So there's always opportunities for co-working spaces in pockets as well. Especially in the Chamblee area, it's such a great location to have a co-working space.
So how did you come up with Chamblee? Why Chamblee?
Why
Do you live
Chamblee?
close by? Or?
So I live in Peachtree Corners, so
Okay,
not
so
too
not
far.
far.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I went to school at St. Pius, so right up the street here.
Okay, so-
And I didn't know about Chamblee until I was looking for space, and I just happened to drive through, and something about the downtown area just completely fell in love with it. And so I made the decision that I had to be here. It's such a great community feel. It's right by MARTA. It's by all the interstates. And the neighborhoods around here, there's great pockets of neighborhoods like Brookhaven, Dorville, Tucker, and Chamblee, obviously. So the location was really the big factor in the co-working decision.
David, you know what I find interesting about this? So last episode, we had Carrie Hewitt from Carrie's Bridal on the show, and she coincidentally also lives in the you said Johns Creek is where you're?
Peachtree Corners, close, yeah.
She's right there in that Johns Creek,
outside the
Peachtree
perimeter.
Corners.
Yep.
And she said a very similar thing about falling in love with the downtown and whatnot. So here we have 2 weeks in a row, these fabulous women entrepreneurs who have just fallen in love with Chamblee's downtown. Do you attribute that to anything going on in Chamblee? You're, as the chairman of the development authority, can you speak to that?
I think it's fantastic that you're coming down here to Chamblee. Obviously, you're on the bleeding edge of the development curve for Chamblee. The Bones have always been here for so long, and we've had a couple of adventurers coming here, Mike over at Southbound, and now we have the Himalayas restaurant. We have a few more that have opened up.
Yeah, even if you go further back to Mario from Vintage Pizza,
Correct,
who
right.
opened up when there was no restaurants in downtown Chamblee.
Right, but there's always been a little bit of a lack of office space. And so Trackside just opened up, and they're already fully occupied, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a demand for it. And as the city grows, they're not making more dirt inside the perimeter. So if you want to be inside the perimeter, it's getting harder and harder to do so. And we're about the last municipality before you get to 285.
So, Margaret, you were saying a second ago about MARTA. Do you find that you have customers coming into the business from MARTA? They're traveling on MARTA and walking over to your business?
Yeah, so this area is really unique in that, I have teams here that meet specifically here because of the centralness of the location. So they have teams that, live outside the perimeter and inside the perimeter. The ones that live inside the perimeter take MARTA in, so they don't have to battle traffic from Midtown area to get into this neighborhood. So they chose it specifically because of the access to MARTA and the access to the interstates.
Now, there's another location that does a similar thing to you over by the airport called the Globe.
Yes.
And that's probably about the same walk from MARTA here. So do you consider the Globe your primary competitor, or do you find people going, hey, I'm going to go over there instead of coming to you?
Well, it depends. I would say, I guess, yes, they're a competitor, but at the same time, it's great to have somebody similar nearby because it helps educate the community about what we're all about as well. So,
well, there's no doubt you have a much cooler space.
I didn't say that.
No.
It's a very cool space.
I think David Carter said that when he came in here.
I was very impressed.
I appreciate that. But, different co-working spaces have different amenities, different programming. And so we try to differentiate ourselves a little bit with our programming. But what makes us also unique compared to other co-working spaces is that we also have warehouse space and a photo studio. So for photographers, for people with inventory or designers with stuff they need to store, sometimes that's different from other co-working spaces.
Yeah. The photography looks cool, and these little conference rooms are really great. We thank you for inviting us in to do our show here
No problem.
in this room. So,
I did want to bring up, as Chambly implements more autonomous driving, more autonomous vehicles, and I think we're talking about doing that rental bicycle program. That's going to make it a lot easier for people to get from the MARTA stop over to here.
I would love that. That would be an incredible addition to the city.
Yeah. Yes, because we're not far away, but anything we can do to make it easier for your clients to get here would be a great help.
And they love it.
So you have 2 restaurants right next to you as well. Is that a big benefit? Because you don't have anything in-house as far as food, do you? I mean, coffee, water, but that's about it, right?
So coffee, tea, and snacks are included. We do social events here as well, but I'm not going to lie, it's a great addition to our tours when we point out that we have a brewery across the street.
Right.
And, it's great that there's multiple restaurants down the street.
All
within walking distance, yeah.
I don't even know if I could be here because I'd almost have to be on, the meal plan for hot sticks. I just go and run my car to get my lunch and my dinner.
So often.
Your wife would be like, "Where's David? Is he at work?" No, he's across the street from work.
Just like the cafeteria back in college.
Right.
Lunch, happy hour.
Now tell us how if I wanted to come in, do I buy a membership, or how does the pricing work?
So how does it work? Yeah. So it's a membership model. Think of it like a gym membership, where you tell us kind of how often you plan on using the space. What do you really need? Do you need private office? Do you need a desk? Or do you just want to use it like a souped up Starbucks where you're just popping in and out a few times a week? And so we have different membership levels depending on what you need. So our membership level that's kind of the lightest is our Coworking Lite, where you come in a few times a week and you can use the common space area up in the front, and there are desks up there, and you can have access to all of our member events and coffee, tea, snacks, and you get access to our meeting rooms as well. If you need something,
that comes with internet access.
Exactly. So you don't have to worry about internet. We have super reliable internet. You don't have to worry about utilities, cleaning, any of that. That's all included in your membership. So we just offer a professional environment for you and your clients to work. And then if you have a team and you want multiple desks or you need private office space, where we also can accommodate those as well. And so we're also expanding into our next door area to add more private office space because it's highly demanded.
So when the chiropractor moved out, you gobbled that up.
Exactly.
Now you don't own the building, right?
I do.
You own the building?
Yes, I do.
You own both that space and the entire building. Okay. Well, that answers your question from before, David.
I was
David
thinking
asked
about that.
whether or not you own the building.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the decision tree in going through the leasing versus purchasing the building?
Well, I mean, our family in general, we are in real estate investing as well, and I just love this building. I mean, it's such a great building with great bones, and I wanted to be here long term for my businesses. And so the decision was pretty easy to decide to purchase this building versus leasing it out. And it just happened to be up for sale. So that was kind of great timing.
Perfect timing.
Now, David, I don't know if you picked up on that. She said businesses. So, what I love about these entrepreneurs we've been talking with is they're not just satisfied with one business. They have what I call side hustles. And, tell us about, you do have another business, an online business, correct?
I do,
Tell us about that.
So I also run an e-commerce business that sells gardening products and home good products. We mainly sell on Amazon at the moment, but we're looking at diversifying off of that platform. So originally the building was also conducive for that. And when I first started the business, it was really hard for me to find a place for a new e-commerce business owner to find like office space and small warehouse space that was also flexible.
So you actually have the goods here that for the
yes,
online business.
Some of it, yes.
Some of it here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I call like I said a second ago, Dave. I call these side hustles, entrepreneur side hustles. So the question is, which came first? Which is the side hustle and which is the main business?
It's
did
hard
the
to tell
co-working
nowadays.
come out of this, hey, I've got this online business and I need office space, like you just said, and I need warehouse space, and oh, look, here's a building that I can also start another business?
So the e-commerce business technically came first, and the building was conducive for that business. But I had always wanted to start a co-working business because I just love being surrounded by other entrepreneurs. There's something about the energy they bring, the community, and it's just way more fun to work with others than it is to work by yourself in your house. And so, it was kind of always a dream to do both. One just came before the other. That's
Gotcha.
all. Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things I always like hearing about in my financial planning practice is talking with clients about husband and wife and how they interact, and are they both entrepreneurs or not entrepreneurs. So is this operation completely 100% you, or is your husband involved, or any other family members involved?
So my husband's a realtor, so he's an entrepreneur himself, but I couldn't do this without his help as well. Like, I feel like as an entrepreneur, you kind of live and breathe your business, and it's great that I'm married to somebody that kind of understands that.
That gets it.
Exactly. And you always need, like, when you own your own building as well, there's always something that's happening that I need help with, and it's great to have an extra hand with somebody that also has a flexible schedule. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a family thing, even though I run more of the day-to-day stuff.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So David, we've been on the air now for 14, 15 episodes, and I've had people comment about how much they've learned from listening to the podcast about being an entrepreneur. And it's almost, I feel like you almost can get an MBA just listening to Between Two Trains and picking the brains of these entrepreneurs. So, one of the things that interests me is talking about how you got started. You mentioned the two businesses and when one came before the other, but, it's difficult to start a business. There's a lot of things that go into it. And one of the things that most people ask me about being in finance is, when do they make that change and where do they get the money to do that? So can you speak a second about how you funded this? Was this, fully funded by yourself from your own savings, or did you go out and get some kind of loan to buy the building? Or did your real estate husband, did he said, hey, I found the perfect spot? Tell us a little bit about how the financing side started.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to come from a family of entrepreneurs, and my parents, my dad is an entrepreneur himself. So
what does he do?
He's done so many things.
How many things does
I know.
he do?
I was going to say
entrepreneurship is an addiction.
He's been in so many projects. But
maybe we need to have him on the show.
I know. But so a lot of it came from myself and my family.
Okay. So some family equity partners bought into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a great way to go about it.
How did you come up with the idea for the gardening tools e-business?
So I used to run a nutrition bar business before. I started and ran it for 5 years, and I realized we were in a bunch of grocery stores and online, and I realized I really disliked the brick and mortar aspect of retail, but I loved e-commerce. I loved that part of it, and I didn't really want to continue in food, and so I started to look into other areas of e-commerce that were interesting to me personally. And so at that point we were going to buy a house, and I wanted to get in gardening and cooking. And so I kind of just chose products that I found interesting myself.
That you would use these
that
products.
I would use, exactly. And then I also found a business that kind of had this model that I then I also acquired and learned from them on how to kind of run a business like this. And so I learned from others on how to do this.
So you've got product on hand being stored here, but you're also running it as a drop ship sort of business?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination of both?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, because normally I see, drop shipping is where they order it and someone else warehouses it, ships it, mails it,
you're just
packages
the sales part.
You're just the web portal, I guess, to do it.
Right.
But you're doing a little bit of both. How'd that develop?
So it's mostly came about because of you have to manage the expenses on if you use a drop shipper. They have storage fees, they have order management fees, they have a bunch of fees. And so in order to try to optimize the fees versus trying to get that quick sell through, I had to take on some of the inventory here and closely manage the inventory that goes into the drop ship. And so that kind of developed over time because at first their fee structures weren't as complicated, but as storage has gotten more scarce, as processing fees have increased, you kind of have to manage your inventory a lot closer.
Okay, interesting.
Well, we are going to take a short break to hear from the sponsors of our show, and we will be right back to hear more from Margaret about her co-working business and maybe play Hot or Not. Margaret knows Hot or Not, so we'll see the answers to her Hot or Not.
If you recently got divorced, you may be wondering how to pick up all of the financial pieces. Is it time to make a new budget, new goals, and get a new game plan with your investments? What about the best way to save money on your taxes? Take control of your money future. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to schedule a complimentary meeting today. Go to oxygenfinancial.net to get started right now.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, an affiliate of Kestra Investment Services. Oxygen is not affiliated with Kestra.
All right, welcome back to Between Two Trains, a business podcast brought to you in the North DeKalb area where we interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs of the area. We come to you on the 1st and the 15th of every month, and you can listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting channels, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or just go to betweentwotrains.com. That's between the number 2 trains.com. So before the break, we were talking about your two businesses, and before we get into Hot or Not, I had one more question I wanted to ask about. David and I have talked many times about branding and marketing and the importance of that, not just from a city level, but also from a business perspective. So tell us a little bit from a marketing perspective. You've got this online knowledge. You're probably an expert in marketing online. So, but what I want to know is, how do you market the co-working space? Because you're trying to get the word out that you're here. Yes. And so what have you done over this first year to market that business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for a local business, so not a purely e-commerce business, it's a bit different in terms of how you market it. There's both an online and an offline component. So for online, being able to be found is the biggest thing. So making sure your search engine optimization is up and optimized, and making sure you're on listings that make sense. There's a bunch of directories for co-working spaces, making sure your reviews on Google and Yelp are good, all those things. But the offline component is getting involved in the community, making sure you know your neighbors, and getting involved in events and groups that are local and around the area. So attending networking events and things like that, and making sure that people around you kind of know you are there and what your services are.
Well, that leads us into our Hot or Not, and I actually want to tie in my first Hot or Not. David, I'll take the first one here, which is actually the difference, Hot or Not, between referrals and what I call block and tackle, or paper marketing.
So are you asking me which one's hot?
One's hot, one's not, or both hot, both not?
I mean, we've tried both. Referrals are awesome. I think those are hot just because they're... Obviously,
the cost to acquire that client is a lot less with a referral.
Yes, absolutely. But they also come with a positive, they already think of you positively. And so it's kind of a great mindset to have before they walk in our door. And so that's kind of a great way to get people in the door here.
So paper marketing, would you do that? Have you done that?
Paper marketing, we've definitely done that. We've sent out postcards and things like that. It honestly hasn't been as successful.
You don't think it's effective?
Not as effective, but I also I also would probably try it again in the future.
Did you use a third party, or did you do it all yourself?
We did it all ourselves, which is the other thing I would do differently. I might try a third party and
where
get
they
some
might
expertise.
have a list of people that would cater to
Exactly.
what you're selling, rather than just a blanket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a little bit more targeted.
I'm going to go off the list for my very first question ever.
Thanks, David.
When you got yourself set up with your contracts, your partnership agreements, stuff like that, was it hot to use a lawyer or not?
Oh,
There's a loaded question there.
Only from a lawyer.
You're not going to hurt my feelings. Answer whatever you
Actually,
want.
I think it's hot. I have great lawyers.
She's not saying you're hot, David.
Goes without saying.
I have great lawyers that I worked with that make sure that I'm, crossing my T's and dotting my I's. And my sister's also a lawyer, so I come from a little bit of a biased position. But I do think that as an entrepreneur, it's hard to not know everything, because you want to know everything, right, going into a business. But you need to get help where you need it. And lawyers are great for that, especially when you're dealing with terms and conditions and contracts and all that stuff. So hot.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people ask me about when they're wanting to start a business is they've been doing this hobby and they're like, okay, I want to make a run at it. What do I do first? And, I'm a big believer of business plans. Are you a business plan kind of entrepreneur, or are you fly by the seat of your pants?
So I'm a business plan kind of entrepreneur, but I fully realize that it's a live document that needs to be updated pretty constantly.
So business plans, you're saying, are hot?
I think business plans are hot. I feel like it helps you think through your entire business model before you really take a dive.
So if they're a living, breathing document, do you redo yours on a regular basis? I know every November I redo my business plan. How often do you do a business plan?
Kind of about the same. Like at the end of the year, I kind of look over what I thought I would accomplish and then try to tweak it as I go, especially the financial part of it, the inputs for those, because you just learn so much in a year, and most of the time things don't go as planned, so you have to update it.
So do you have any employees, or what is the employee structure here? Is it just you, or what?
So I have 2 employees that run kind of the space. We have a community manager, Lisa, and a community assistant, Ashley, and they have different roles in the space.
The reason I ask that is my next hot or not is, would you share financials with employees? Is that a hot thing to do?
I think it is. I mean, I feel like if you're kind of working towards a goal, it's especially for small teams, it's great to be able to be on the same page. And so we have reporting that we do every month, and we go over it and we look at the trends and things like that, and they kind of understand what the overarching goals are for the space. So
Excellent.
So I've got one for you, again, going off the list, or at least I didn't see it on
You
the
don't
list.
you don't like my list, do you, David?
Well, no, it's not that I don't like the list. It's that I keep thinking of new questions because you've got so much
There is a
information.
reason why you are co-hosting today, for this exact reason. I knew you would bring value to the show.
I'm bringing
A whole new
verve
level.
to it.
Whole
Yes,
new level.
exactly. So you have purchased the building and you've started the business, and that brings up the question of whether you brought on partners to help fund the business or if you took out loans to fund the business. So equity or lending, what's hot or not?
I think that kind of depends on your position. I mean, who you know.
You were fortunate that you had some
yeah,
family
exactly. I was
backing you.
Exactly. So if I didn't, I would probably go down the loan route. Because it's very hard to find equity partners. And so
It's very hard to find loans, too.
Exactly. I mean, it's hard for anything, any of that. But I was lucky enough to not have to go down the loan route. But if I had to, I would. If that's something, if the business that you want to build is the business you want to build. So I would say both are hot, depending on your position.
That's not an answer.
I know. I'm sorry.
Well, we want people to know where you're at. Tell if someone needs office space, where do they go? If someone needs lawn and garden, whatever it was, tell us where they go for both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3411 Coworking is located on 3411 Pierce Drive. And for those that know Hopsticks, we're right across the street from Hopsticks. And if you need information about membership, 3411coworking.com, or we give tours every day. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you're welcome to come in and take a tour of the space. And I also wanted to highlight for the first Thursdays of every month, we have a free co-working day for those that aren't familiar with co-working and kind of just want to try it out risk-free. You can pop in, let us know, that you just want to try it out, and we do that as well coming up on the 6th.
I can't come every Thursday, can I?
We will try to set a limit on it.
She doesn't realize I'll be here every Thursday.
All food, all the drinks.
Margaret said, come on Thursdays.
But yes.
And what about the e-commerce business?
So the e-commerce business is KasianHouse.com, KASIAN house.com. You can go there and find some cool blogs about gardening and home good products and tips on both of those. So.
Well, we're going to leave you with one last hot or not before we end the show. And this is one that I ask, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to it, but I ask pretty much every guest we've had, Chambly. Hot or not?
Oh my God, off the chart hot.
What makes it so hot in your opinion?
The community in and of itself is amazing. All the new things that are coming up are really, really exciting to hear about the town center. And everybody here has been a great supporter of me and of this business since I moved in, and so it's a hot place to be.
So David, she mentioned the town center. Is there any developments you can share with our audience about what's going on with the town center and the development authority?
Well, we've been having meetings on a regular basis. If you haven't seen or attended any of the meetings, you can go to the Downtown Chambly website and look at the recordings of all those meetings. When we meet, Bob Voiles with Seven Oaks has come to present numerous times. Mm-hmm. We've got a wealth of information, and then when we have Taste of Chambly, there'll be a booth with more information about the town center and where things are going. We do hope to have things coming up in the next couple of years. Obviously, everybody wants buildings to spread out of the ground as quickly as possible, but I think it's more important that we do the job right and build something that if we look back on it 50 years from now, we're going to be proud that we built. Yeah. And I think we're heading the right direction.
Yeah, as they say in Decatur was a 30-year project in the making, right? So you're right. It's going to take some time.
And I think we're on the right track. I think we've got a good team working on that.
Now, was that a pun, or did you do that on purpose, that we're on the right track? Isn't that the city logo?
It was completely an accident.
We're a city on the right track.
I was reading it off my cue card.
There's a reason why we call it Between Two Trains, right?
That's right. That's right.
Way to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, you've been listening to Between Two Trains. We thank you for coming back. Tell your friends, spread the word about Between Two Trains, and we will come to you again in 2 weeks with another great entrepreneur. Thanks for listening.